The suspect in a mass stabbing in Saskatchewan is dead.
Shortly after his arrest, he went into medical distress. He was pronounced deceased at the hospital.
Miles Sanderson dies after being arrested by RCMP north of Saskatoon. The suspect wanted since Sunday in a mass stabbing that took the lives of 10 people. And
I think Canadians need to realize that inflation's here to stay for a bit longer.
in a bid to cool inflation, the Bank of Canada raises its key interest rate to its highest level since 2008. And experts say we can expect another hike soon. Plus,
just looking at celebrating our stories, independence, and freedoms.
Film festival season is here. The Caribbean Tales International Film Festival kicks off tonight on the eve of TIFF with over 50 films from 15 countries. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. We're following major developments from Saskatchewan tonight, where the suspect in the mass stabbing that shattered a community is dead. 32-year-old Miles Sanderson was taken into custody late this afternoon northwest of Saskatoon, and he later died in hospital. The RCMP providing more details in a news conference tonight.
At approximately 3:30 p.m., the suspect vehicle was seen traveling south on Highway 11, south of Rostern. To ensure the safety of drivers on the highway, the vehicle was directed off the road and into a nearby ditch. Police officers surrounded the vehicle and, through verbal identification, confirmed the identity of the driver to be Miles Sanderson. He was arrested by police and taken into custody. Shortly after his arrest, he went into medical distress. Nearby, EMS were called by police to attend the scene, and he was transported to a hospital in Saskatoon. He was pronounced deceased at the hospital.
Sanderson had evaded police since Sunday. The stabbing rampage left 10 people dead and another 18 injured in 13 different crime scenes in the James Smith Cree Nation area and in the nearby village of Weldon. RCMP have now released the identities of all of those who died in the attack, from young adults to senior citizens, mothers, grandmothers, sons, and daughters. Today, we heard from the brother of Bonnie Goodvoice Burns about the immensity of the loss, about the importance of family in the community, and about how his sister was the pillar of hers.
One of the things that I can say about my sister and Chuck's daughter and our niece and our relative, family came first, her family. We always talk about, in First Nations culture, the matriarchal society. She lived that. She was always at home with her children while Brian was out there working, playing sports. She was always with her family. She was the caretaker of her home. They had a beautiful home. And that's what we want people to remember her as. She's not a victim. She's a hero.
We just heard from the family of 48-year-old Bonnie Goodvoice Burns and her son, 28-year-old Gregory Burns, also killed at James Smith Cree Nation. 61-year-old Gloria Burns, a frontline worker who died trying to help others. Earl Burns Sr., a 66-year-old Indigenous veteran, 46-year-old Carol Burns, 49-year-old Lana Head, a security guard and mother of 5, 54-year-old Christian Head, 49-year-old Robert Sanderson, the youngest victim, 23-year-old Thomas Burns, and in Weldon, Saskatchewan, 78-year-old Wesley Pedersen, a widower remembered as a kind-hearted man who loved his cats. For all the latest developments from Saskatchewan, you can head to our website, cbcnews.ca. In other news, the Bank of Canada has raised its key lending rate by 0.75 percentage point. This pushes the interest rate up to 3.25%, the highest we've seen in 14 years. The central bank doing this in a bid to tame the red-hot inflation and bring down the higher prices we've been paying for pretty much everything lately. Natalie Collada has more.
Everything's pretty crazy right now. Groceries, super expensive. You have a car, gas, everything.
Tighten up your belt and get ready for the ride.
If life wasn't expensive enough, hold on, it's about to get a bit more pricey. Today, the Bank of Canada raised interest rates to the highest level since 2008 in an attempt to cool inflation. Realtors in Toronto's hot housing market are preparing.
Now that we had the increase, we expect in the next coming week the market to slow down immediately.
Earlier this year, a home buyer could easily borrow $500,000 at 1.45% for 30 years, costing a little over $1,700 a month. Most of that payment would go to paying down the principal. But after today, that same payment doesn't even cover the interest portion.
In the past 2 weeks, we are seeing a peak in activity in the number of transactions just because people were trying to lock the interest rate before the increase.
Car dealerships have also seen a shift.
People are not trying to make big purchases.
Financial experts aren't surprised.
Canadians need to realize that inflation's here to stay for a bit longer.
With inflation and the interest rate increase, Campbell says the average family needs an extra $400 a month to cover their costs. But she says there are things you can do to save, like moving from 2 vehicles to 1 and looking for savings, including at the grocery store.
Be very aware of when you go shopping and how you go shopping. You know, end-of-aisle products are not necessarily the cheapest. Eye-level products are definitely not the cheapest. So those ones are easy to grab and usually higher priced.
Economists say even more rate hikes could be coming before the end of the year. Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, just one more sleep until the Toronto International Film Festival kicks off, with movie stars, filmmakers, and film lovers descending on the city from around the world. But it's not the only film festival taking place in the city. This evening, the Caribbean Tales International Film Festival had its opening night. Our Tyler Cheese joins us live from King Street. And Tyler, where you are standing now will be buzzing tomorrow when TIFF begins. But tonight, you got a chance to check out the Caribbean Tales Film Festival. Tell me more about that.
Well, Kelda, when you think of Toronto film festivals, you obviously think of the big one, TIFF. But earlier tonight, I had the chance to check out the Caribbean Tales Film Festival. Now in its 17th year, the festival celebrates films made for and by those in the Caribbean and African communities. This year, it's showcasing over 50 films from 15 countries.
While the city prepares itself for TIFF, this theater on Carlton Street is hosting opening night for the Caribbean Tales Film Festival. It's the first time since the pandemic that the festival's been able to hold in-person screenings. This year's theme is Awakening, with a focus on mental health.
We are celebrating awakening, so just being able to be back in person, looking at self-reflection, looking at self-love and also wellness. Really excited for all the filmmakers because that's really what it's about, showcasing them and their art.
Caribbean Tales started as a small festival to coincide with Caribbean Carnival weekend 17 years ago.
Very quickly, when we started the festival, we found that there was a huge appetite in the city for films from the Caribbean diaspora, because they're good films, but they're incredible stories, but they also reflect a part of our demographic that hasn't had a voice before.
Now the festival runs at the same time as TIFF, something its founder says is very purposeful.
We had filmmakers coming from all over the world to participate in our festival, and we wanted to be able to offer them the opportunity also to participate in the conversations around global film that were happening through TIFF.
Tonight's opening film is a documentary focusing on the history of Toronto's annual Caribbean Carnival.
The amount of people and how great they are, how talented and creative they are, that's what makes this carnival so great. And we are, as Canadians, have to understand the meaning of it, the history behind it, and truly appreciate that we have an event like this in our city.
While TIFF tends to get the most attention, smaller outings like Caribbean Tales are pivotal to the city's thriving film festival scene.
As a film goer, you can pick and choose, everything from a silent film festival, which would attract one kind of audience, obviously, to again, one that appeals to a particular national or community focus.
So grab some snacks and settle in for festival season. Others scheduled for this fall include Imaginative, Toronto After Dark, and the Real Asian Film Festival.
Now, Caribbean Tales runs until the 23rd, but of course we have to talk about TIFF. As of tomorrow morning, a whole stretch of King Street here is going to be closed off for the festival. Things will officially kick off in the evening with a screening of The Swimmers. It's a true story about two sisters making their way from war-torn Syria to the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. And of course, TIFF's going to bring some big celebrities to town. Harry Styles, Daniel Radcliffe, and Oprah are all expected to appear.
It's going to be an exciting couple of weeks here in the city. Thanks so much, Tyler. That's our Tyler Cheese live for us tonight. Let's go to Dahlia Ashry now with a first look at your forecast. And Dahlia, another sunny, beautiful day and a warm one as the rest of the kids headed back to school.
That's right, Kel. The kids went to school yesterday and the rest went to school today on some bright and sunny conditions, which is what everyone loves to have on their first day of school or maybe even second. And let me tell you, third and fourth will be the same as well. And also that humidity is sticking around too. So the daytime highs in Toronto are 23 degrees, Windsor 25, London 23. The cool spot in the region is Kingston at 22 degrees. But for the most part, sunny all over the place. Now, are we expecting any rain tonight? And the answer to that is no. But there will be some clouds in sight, and that will clearly start to go away as we head into tomorrow. And it'll be clear skies. So that high pressure system is giving us those clear skies. Now, tonight, temperatures will drop to 15 degrees. Tomorrow, another beautiful day like we were talking about, 26 degrees with that humid X factor. It feels more like 29. So make sure you have your kids lathered up in sunscreen because that UV index is still there and we got to stay protected from the sun. Kelda?
Thanks so much, Dahlia. While today is the second day of school for students in Durham, Peel and Halton, for kids in Toronto, it's their first day back. And for the first time in 2 years without COVID restrictions. Ali Chiasson has more on how it all went down.
School is in session and kids couldn't be happier. Well, most kids.
I don't like school.
To be fair, it is a little daunting. It's the first school year since the pandemic began without any COVID restrictions.
I'm expecting that there won't be as much protocols anymore. So I hope it's a bit more freer and easier to do stuff now.
Extracurriculars are back.
I'm hoping to go to a sports team, anything, and then maybe learn a lot more.
It's the first time in a long time that school feels like regular school again, and little Adira can just look forward to
having fun with my friends.
And Mum?
Excited to have them in school again, and hopefully it's a safe and happy environment for them.
The pandemic was still very much on parents' minds today.
Summertime we're fine, but then as soon as winter hits, that's when our COVID levels go higher. And with him, he has health issues. So that's where it's also a scary part as a mom. How am I going to react to all the situations?
But most are feeling optimistic that we are better equipped than ever to have a healthy school year without disruptions.
We're ready for anything.
Even an education workers' strike? Today, as union negotiations continue, both the education minister and the opposition seem to be blaming each other for a future job action.
What we accept is a matter of fact that over 30 years in this province, irrespective of the Premier and the party in this chair, that unions in this province, teacher unions and education unions, have striked and withdrawn services throughout those 30 years. That is the truth.
This government's track record when it comes to peace and stability in our schools is lacking.
Canada's largest school board isn't bracing for a strike just yet. Like parents, they're still hoping for the best.
I'm optimistic that we will have a great school year for our staff and our students who really need stability and connection this year.
I'm excited. I'm excited to have them back. Long summer.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
An education campaign is underway in Toronto to remind drivers to watch out for school children. As they head back to class, the city says posters and advertisements are going up to remind people to slow down and stay alert. Mayor John Tory says despite new measures, driver behavior is still the most important part of the equation.
They're designated stretches of roadway that include additional signage, those signs that monitor your speed. And again, those measure speed so we can see they do cause speeds to reduce. But again, the human behavior is going to be more important than anything else that happens.
70 more school safety zones will be established by the end of the year. Tory also said the new campaign will include enforcement with stepped-up police patrols until mid-September. In 2016, Toronto set out to reduce the number of traffic-related fatalities to 0. But 6 years later, it's still falling short of its Vision Zero plan, with another 2 people killed in collisions over the Labor Day long weekend. A woman and 2 children are in hospital after a collision that led to a school bus rollover. It happened in Caledon this morning. The OPP sharing this photo of the collision. A 13-year-old student was on the bus. A woman and her baby were in the SUV. They were taken to hospital and treated for minor injuries. Nearly 5 months after a drive-by shooting in Scarborough that injured 5 men, police announced today they've made an arrest.
Numerous investigative techniques were utilized in this case, which resulted in the identification and subsequent arrest of Mr. Mohammed Nasir.
The 20-year-old faces more than a dozen charges, including 5 counts of attempted murder. He's accused of opening fire on a group of men who had gathered after attending prayer service at a nearby mosque back on April 16th. It happened in the parking lot of a plaza near Markham Road and Lawrence Avenue. Police believe the shooting was targeted, but they are not investigating it as a hate crime. Coming up, it's only September, but a snow-like substance is already falling on this woman's yard.
My vegetable garden back here is covered with white pellets, styrofoam.
Where it's coming from and what experts are saying about its environmental impact after the break. Welcome back. It was a sight a Toronto woman couldn't believe in September. Snow coming down outside her window. Turns out it wasn't snow, but tiny pieces of styrofoam. The source, a nearby construction site. The tiny beads can now be found all over her property, and she says both the city and the construction company haven't done enough to clean it up. Farm Morale reports.
So my vegetable garden back here is covered.
It's been 4 days, but Lois Dellert is still shaking off tiny beads of styrofoam from her plants and fishing them out, one by one, from the crevices on her patio. On Friday, she looked out her window to see this, swirling pieces of styrofoam. The source, a nearby construction site, apparently installing insulation and sanding it down.
And it was literally like snowing.
Dellert says she immediately flagged it to the construction team next door, who told her they'd clean it up. But days later, it's hard not to spot the foam.
Look, the wind is just picking it up. So,
right there. Even as we were doing the interview, small pieces started blowing past us. It's not the first time nearby construction involving styrofoam has rained over a neighborhood. People living near Weston and Lawrence experienced a similar thing in 2019.
It started snowing styrofoam, and the whole neighborhood was wondering what was happening.
The biggest issue is, for me, well, it's a health issue, plus an environmental issue.
The problem with styrofoam is twofold, says some experts. It breaks into particles so small that make it easy to travel through the air, and it can take years to break down where it lands. There's also the potential health effects from the chemicals that leach out.
And styrene has been linked to a range of both acute and chronic effects. So chronic effects such as cancer and endocrine disrupting symptoms, as well as issues to do with like skin and eye irritation, respiratory irritation.
Some are now pushing for companies to consider alternatives to styrofoam for insulation. CBC Toronto reached out to the construction company but didn't get a response. The city confirmed to us it has received complaints and that it's contacted the contractor. It told the city it's been cleaning the area with a vacuum.
Well, you can see this is...
As for Dellert, she says she had to hire an outside company to professionally remove the styrofoam. But even then, more beads continue to blow in.
We refuse to use plastic bags, and then on a construction site, they can just blow styrofoam dust over an entire neighborhood.
She's calling for a more thorough cleanup, so she's not still finding these tiny white beads come actual winter. Farah Morale, CBC News, Toronto.
You are looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline, mainly clear this evening with some cloudy periods overnight. Currently, it is 20 degrees downtown. Let's go back to Dahlia now with a look at your long-range forecast. And Dahlia, shaping up to be a really nice week weather-wise.
That's right, Kelda. We had to put the umbrellas aside from Labor Day weekend, and then we came into this week with beautiful sunshine and our sunglasses ready, but that Humidex is just sticking around, making it feel kind of muggy still. But overall, lovely dry conditions, and we will be seeing that for the days to come. But rain will be expected, but that's still far down the line sometime next week. The daytime highs in Toronto today, beautiful conditions, 23 degrees, Windsor 25, Kitchener 24. When we factored in the Humidex earlier today, it felt more like 27 degrees. So it did feel a little bit muggy, but overall beautiful, clear, sunny skies. There were some clouds in sight as well for the most part. Overnight tonight, some clouds in sight, but that will be clearing up. And as we head into work and dropping off the kids to school again tomorrow or taking the school bus, there will be some fog, some clouds, but that will clear up, giving us those clear skies at around 1 o'clock. So when the kids go out to recess, they'll get to enjoy that. So if and when they do, make sure you give them some sunscreen because they're out playing around, and they will need that with that sun that's coming through tomorrow with the high pressure. And then that sunshine will stick around. Towards the evening, it will start to go away, but then Friday, 8 a.m., same thing. And we're seeing those same conditions as we head into Friday evening as well. Clear skies for the most part. Tonight, temperatures will cool down. It'll be 15 degrees. And then tomorrow, another beautiful day, 26 degrees. That humidity cranks up the heat, making it feel more like 29. Again, 15 degrees in Toronto overnight tonight. Same thing in Hamilton, except it will be 14 degrees. So a little bit cooler in Hamilton, Mississauga, and Markham, especially in Oshawa, a little bit cooler there because there is some shower. Cooler in Hamilton, Mississauga, and Markham, especially in Oshawa, a little bit cooler there because there is some showers, scattered showers overnight tonight. 30% chance of rain. Same thing in St. Catharines. As for the next few days, what to expect? Like I said, wasn't lying to you. There you go. Dry, beautiful conditions and feeling more like 30s with the Humidex factor that will be kicking in, making you feel a little muggy, although we get that sunshine. And then Monday next week, then we can talk about that another time, maybe tomorrow's newscast. But it will be raining on Monday, so you'll need your umbrellas for the next week of school. But this week was great. Kelda?
Thanks, Dahlia. Finally tonight, if you want a close encounter with whale sharks, the middle of the Atlantic may be a good place to dip your toes in. The Azores Islands are located about 1,400 kilometers west of the Portuguese coast, and there's a reason why tourists flock to the archipelago of 9 volcanic islands. Many marine creatures use these mild waters as a stopover during their long migration. Every year, about 20 different species make their way through the region between March and October. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.